that you're talking about, just to be clear.
No, the version of physical I'm talking about is on the slide right now. So it's just mental states are located roughly somewhere in the body.
Your stupid screen. So just tell me what version.
Yeah, but it's just gonna be on the recording for the YouTube, so you might as well get on it. So like, so the point is just mental. Yeah, and I'll explain it to you. So it's mental states are located roughly somewhere in the body. Yeah, it's pretty simple. Mental. Yeah, to the third time, mental states are located roughly somewhere in the body.
And what type of relation obtains between mental properties and physical properties, on your view?
You can understand it. Let's go with an identity relation, but I don't have a view on that, by the way. I don't have a view on the type of relation. No, I'm saying, do you, like on this view we can go with
relation, yes or no?
I'm agnostic on the relation.
You're agnostic on the relation.
Yes.
Okay, but you think that it is the case that mental facts are fully explained in terms of physical facts?
I didn't talk about explanations.
I'm asking you a question. I didn't say you talked about it. I asked you if you take that.
Oh yeah, so I can also say I'm agnostic on that. Now look at how you. Yeah, if I say I'm agnostic on that as well.
That you asserted something.
Note how if I say I'm agnostic on that, this isn't going to go anywhere. What's the first premise?
So the question was, do you think that it is the case that mental facts are fully explained in terms of physical facts? Yes.
I'm agnostic. It depends on what counts as an explanation. We're not going to go into that right now. So let's say I'm agnostic.
He's like the standard, understanding of what an explanation is.
Yeah. What do you think the standard view is?
Whatever you think it is. What do you think it is?
No. Okay, let's go with an answer. Let's go with a cause. Let's go with a causal.
What do you think the standard notion of explanation
is? Let's go with a. Yeah, I asked that question to you and you didn't know, and then you just repeated it back to me.
If you think that response that I gave you was indicative of me not knowing, you can think that. That's totally fine. But the question is, what do you think it means when people say explanation?
Let's understand it causally.
Causally? Okay, cool. Yeah. So when you say, so you're saying that mental states cause physical states, or the other way around?
No, I'm not saying mental states cause physical states. I haven't taken a view on whether I think the remember, I just answered the question of what I think an explanation.
Causal, right?
Yes, but I said I'm agnostic on whether physical states explain mental states.
Whether or not mental states are causally interact with physical states.
Yeah, so say I'm agnostic on that. Now, note that the proposition you have here.
What am I supposed to be arguing against? You're agnostic.
Okay, so yeah, let me tell you what you're supposed to be arguing against. So remember, you signed off on having a sound argument for the proposition that mental.
Agnostic.
Sorry. You asked the question there. Do you want me to answer that?
It's like another dean stand over here. Just agnostic.
Sorry, Kay. You asked the question there. Do you want me to answer the question or no?
Yeah, sure, man. Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, let me answer it. So what do I want you to give an argument for? Well, okay, so in the live, you signed off on having a sound argument for the proposition that mental states are located roughly somewhere in the body. So that's the argument. That's the argument I'm looking for. Right, so now what I want, remember you said you have an informal argument, let's go with that. Okay. What's the first premise? What's the first premise of the informal argument?
By the way, just to be clear, do you think that...
What's the first premise of the informal argument?
Wait, hold on, just calm down.
Okay, let me know when you have an answer to that question, with whatever the first premise is.
When you say that I signed off on that proposition, or rather having a sound argument for the proposition, excuse me, right? I don't know who it is that's piping up in the background. There's
you stuttered again, dumb
people stuttering. You stupid fuck. Okay. Now, in any case, right, back to you, Adam. Right. I just want to be clear. Are you looking for? Is he looking for like a formal argument?
I'm looking for a sound argument. I already told you this. A sound argument, whether it's formal or informal, doesn't matter.
Sure.
He'll even formalize the informal argument.
Right, that's why I have the notepad up. That's why this is all recorded. I'm gonna formalize your terrible argument for you.
That's totally fine.
Yeah, what's the first premise?
The argument is gonna be something like this. So P1, mental types are multiply realizable.
Mental types are multiply realizable. By the way, this is not going to attack anything about, like, you know, you can take the mental states are located roughly somewhere in the body view with like a token identity view. But yeah, you might not know that. But let's go.
If types are multiply realizable, then they are not identical to physical types.
Okay, premise 2. If mental states are multiply realizable, they are not identical to physical types. You said?
If mental types are not identical to physical types, then psychological discourse, namely vernacular or scientific ones, are not reducible to physical theories.
Okay, if mental types are not identical...
Oh, by the way, was it Death Note that was piping up earlier? Was that him?
Physical just relax, you're in a conversation with me. So if mental types are not identical to physical types...
Jesus Christ.
So if just relax. So if mental types are not identical to physical types, what's the consequence of that? What's the consequence of the third premise?
Yeah, so if mental types are not identical to physical types, then it's not the case that psychological discourse, namely vernacular or scientific, are going to be reducible to any physical theory.
Okay, it's not the case that psych discourse is reducible.
And I can also sort of explain what the multiple realizability thesis is and what the claim of the multiple realizability thesis is making. And then we could just run through the sort of supports for the premises.
Okay, wait. So, let's get the form of this. Let's get the form of the argument first. I'm going to check about whether it's valid or not. So that's P, and then this is, this is P. Then let's say yeah, I don't know why you're laughing. Just for me to check whether your argument's valid. Just relax.
Like foaming at the mouth to check for the fucking validity. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Jesus.
That's right. I am checking validity.
Bro.
Yeah. Okay, so
you're like deep in analytic philosophy. It's kind of sad, dude.
Okay, yeah, I know. I'm sure it's very sad. Okay, for S, and then is the idea that if 1 and 3, so if 1 and 3 is true, so let's say P and
R. Look, I can just sort of go ahead and explain what the multiple realizability thesis is and what the claim it's making, and we can just skip over all this nonsense. Okay, nobody cares to listen to you type on your computer to check if the argument is valid or not. Okay. So
and then
when I talk about multiple realizability,
the idea that is that gets you to G.
Exploring the multiple realizability thesis. Are you done?
So what's the argument for P3?
Yeah, I'm about to explain. I don't know why you're doing this like retarded thing where you're typing so loud in the background. Okay. So in any
what's the first premise? Yeah, what's the first premise of that argument?
Yeah, it's not going to be a first premise. I'm going to give
you. No, I'm not. I know. You can give the second premise first. You can give the second premise first.
That you can just like.
We're on A2 already.
I'm going to give my argument.
We're on A2 already, by the way.
In whatever way that I please.
Just say if 1 and 3, then C. Okay.
So in any case, when I talk
what's the first premise?
Multiple realizability.
Okay, when you talk about
in a retarded way, keep asking me for premise 1. Just listen to the argument.
Yeah, I'll just re-ask for the first premise. Just look at where we're at. I'll just ask for the first premise again.
What's the first premise? What's the first premise?
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do after your Rambo. That's what I'm gonna do.
Robot.
We're on A2. We're on A2K. We're on A2. What's the first premise?
Holy shit.
We're on A2. Yeah, I know you're crying. I know you're crying because you're getting pressed.
In any
What's
case,
P1?
when I talk about the multiple realizability, when I talk about that specifically, what I'm talking about is a claim, right? It's a claim about the possibility for tokens of a certain type to be realized by tokens of 2 or more distinct types, okay? Now, multiple realizability as a thesis, that sort of thing can be applied to a broad range of types, right? It could apply to, chemical types. It could apply to biological types. Can you like mute your mic, your dog shit mic that's like fumbling in the background, so I can like actually get out this explanation?
Yeah, I'll just re-ask for the first premise when you're done.
Yeah, so just go ahead and mute your mic so I can give this explanation. Thank you. So in any case, the multiple realizability thesis, that thing can be applied to a wide range of things, right? It can include things like, maybe even social types or chemical types, mathematical types or whatever. But in this conversation, more specifically, what we're focused on is mental types, right? And whether or not those things are multiply realizable, okay? So roughly, what we want to say when we say that a mental type is multiply realizable is that it's in some sense possible, right? And the modality that's indexed here presumably is going to be a metaphysical sense of possibility, in which case roughly some type is it's possible that some type is multiply realizable if its tokens are able to be realized by 2 or more distinct types. And if that sort of instance, obtains, then you can say that it's possible for the tokens of the mental type, let's say pain, for example, right, to be realized by tokens of the type, you could say C fibers, firing off, and, you could even say Q fibers or something like that. And it's not the case that pain, or excuse me, then if it's the case that C fiber firing is a type, then pain is a multiply realizable mental type, essentially. Okay. So let's suppose that pain, right, as a mental state is the type of thing that's multiply realizable, right? And let's say that we discover some fact about, AdamSetri. Let's say that we discover that, all of Adam's pains are correlated in a way where we're able to label, you could say, the realization of his pain or his pain states with like a certain type of physical occurrence, okay? Namely like firing off of C fibers in the brain or something like that, okay? Now, let's say that we also discover some other person. Let's say, I don't know, Eric, right? Let's say that we discover that Eric's pains are realized not by C fibering, right? Or C fiber facts, you could say. But those things are realized by a distinct type of physical, occurrence, right? Let's call this Q fibers instead of C fibers, okay? So now what we can conclude is that since C fibers and those relevant facts about them firing off, those things do not in any way involve the Q fibers firing off, right? And the same is true vice versa, right? The Q fibers firing off, those things do not involve the C fibers firing off in any way. So from this, we can conclude that the pain that Adam is experiencing, for example, right? That thing could exist without the C fibers firing off, and it could also exist without the Q fibers firing off. Okay, so from this, we can infer that neither C or Q fibers firing off is like a necessary occurrence for pain. And if that sort of thing can be explained, the experience of pain can be explained with neither of those physical facts, right? Then we have reason to believe that those things are not captured by physical phenomena.
Okay, what's the first premise? Because I went through the paywall ramble there. What's the first premise for A2? So remember where we're at. I'm getting an argument for the conclusion that if 1 and 3 is true, then the conclusion is true. So what I'm looking for is an argument for that. So what I'm asking is, what's the first premise for that? Now, you can do this paywall ramble thing again, where you just explain multiple realizability to the room. Thanks for doing that. I mean, I'm sure the room is, very, very happy you've done that. Now, what's the first premise?
Yeah, so once again, I already told you this previously, and I'm going to tell you this again.
I already told you
to give you the argument. Just calm
down.
I
never said you need to give me the argument.
Just calm down, okay?
Yeah, I'm calm. I never said you need to give me the argument.
I don't know why you're saying that you're calm, but then you're interrupting me after I didn't interrupt.
Yeah, because you're saying stuff like you don't need to give me an argument. You're saying stuff like you don't need to give me an argument. You're saying stuff like you don't need to give me an argument. And while you're doing that, I just want to flag that I'm not committing. I'm not committing to the. So you just went on the 5-minute ramble. I didn't interrupt you once. So like all I'm doing. Yeah, just now I did. That's right. So all I'm doing here. Yeah, that's correct. Well done. So all I'm doing here is asking you for the first premise of the argument for C1. And every time I ask you to do that, you keep saying, I don't need to give an argument. Now, I just want to make clear to the room, and don't interrupt me. I see you unmuting that. Oh, okay. Oh, you didn't say you don't need to give an argument?
No, I didn't finish because you interrupted me unironically.
Okay, nice. So what's the first premise?
Okay, nice. It's nice that you interrupted me. You didn't hear the full sentence of and you just straw man what I said. That's nice.
What's the first premise, Kay?
Right?
What's the first premise?
Case, that was another blunder on your part. But in any case, right? So what I said more specifically was that I don't need to give you a formalized argument.
To give a formalized argument.
What
okay, I never said that either, by the way. Yep.
Just stop talking. This is what happened last time. You didn't hear what I said, and then you strawman what I said. Okay, you fucking idiot. Okay, so what I said was that I can give you the argument in any way that I fucking please, and I just gave you the argument that motivates that premise. Okay, the argument that I just gave motivated the premise that mental types are not in fact identical to physical types, and so because of that, right, all of our psychological discourse, those things are not reducible down to any physical theory, and I just gave you that by way of motivation, or rather the motivation that I just gave you for that was the explanation that I gave just now. Okay, so you, in a really fucking retarded way, constantly asking me for premise 1 over and over again, as if it's a mask for the fact that I didn't give you an argument, is actually a tracking error on your part, not mine. Now, if you can't track arguments that aren't formalized in premise, conclusion format, then I'm sorry to tell you, you're fucking stupid, okay? Because lucky for you, right, philosophy is much broader than just what's premise 1, what's premise 2.
Yeah, I agree.
People can actually have arguments, and people can actually present arguments in a way that doesn't have a premise conclusion format. Okay?
I agree. People can do that.
Instead of asking me in a really fucking retarded way to just constantly keep giving you premise 1, make it seem like I'm not giving you an answer to your question.
Yeah. You're definitely giving an answer.
With the answer that I gave you.
Okay. Thanks for that ramble there, Kate. What's the first premise of the argument you have? Notice that I didn't ask for motivation, I asked for an argument.
No, this
Yeah, what's the first premise of the argument? I didn't ask for motivation, ramble.
God,
I didn't ask for a wall of text. What's the first premise? Yeah, you have an argument. You have an argument for this. What's the first premise?
I've already given you the argument. You're not engaging with it.
I'm not convinced you've given an argument. I am convinced you've given.
What are you talking about? Why would I be convinced?
I didn't claim to anything.
Do you think I would care if you're convinced?
No. I obviously don't.
Obvious that I gave you an argument, And if you didn't,
no, it's not. It's not. Just notice that no one in the room knows what the first premise of your argument is.
Adam, right? That's not my problem at all. I did give you an argument, and instead of listening to the argument that I gave you, what you did was you charged me with rambling. You said that I went on a long monologue, which, by the way, was entirely relevant and necessary.
Yeah, entirely relevant.
Explain the motivation for the view, right? And instead of engaging with the motivation that I gave you, you, in a really dumb fuck way, kept repeating to give you premise one, because that's all you do, right? That's your only debate tactic. You get in these fucking
it's a tactic to ask you for the first premise. Yeah,
you get in these Discord servers, and all you do is just pester people for premise one. And
I pester people for arguments.
Before you pester them, you know that people don't have any training in formal.
Oh yeah, like you don't have any training.
Use it as a tool to claim
it's a tool.
Debates against them, right?
I'm not okay. I'm not claiming I've won. I'm just claiming you haven't given the first premise. What's the first premise?
Holy shit, this guy's terrible.
What's the first premise, Kay? What's the first premise?
I don't have to give you a first premise. I've already explained.
I didn't say you have to give me a first premise. What's the first premise of the argument you have?
I don't have to. I don't need to, and I'm not going to.
Okay. So let's write down in A2. We both agree you don't need to give a first premise. Okay, we both agree with that. So now now that we both agree that you don't need to give a first premise, what's the first premise? What's the first premise? What's the first premise?
You don't remember the other two things that I said on top of
what's the first premise?
You were gonna do this move where you're gonna type that I said I didn't need, and then you're gonna make it seem like, oh well, I didn't say you needed to do it, Kay. I said that I want you to give me. I said I don't need, want, or am I going to give you a formula, like a premise conclusion style argument?
We both agree that he doesn't want to give it either. He doesn't want to give it.
Style argument that explained or rather motivated the premises in the original argument that I gave you. Okay, so if you can't track that, you're wasting my time.
It's better to state P1, and then I'll put state P1 here. So so we both agree. So we both agree that
it's becoming very evident that like this is not going anywhere, because obviously
you can run, by the way. You can run on this point. I'm happy with this.
Yeah, you can say that I'm running.
So look,
I grant that you have the.
We both agree that you don't need to state P1, and I think we both agree that you don't want to state the first premise. I think we're both in agreement there. But the problem is, I'm quite a linear person, and so the issue there is what I'm gonna do is ask you. I'm just gonna ask you whether you have the first premise or not, and then I'm gonna ask you to state it. So let's try this. Kay, do you have the first premise? Yes or no?
Yeah. So in any case, right?
Do you have the first premise? Yes or no?
Oh, is that what you're gonna do? You're just gonna.
Kay, do you have the first premise? Yes or no?
Asking me if I have the first premise.
Yeah. That is what I'm gonna do. You're tracking now. Well done. Yeah. Do you have a first premise? Yes or no?
So in any case, right?
Do you have the first premise? Yes or no?
Let me know when you're done.
Yeah. No, when I'm done, it's just when you answer the question.
Yeah. Look at the stutter.
I started a good one.
Let me know when you're done. Let me know when you're done.
I'm not going to be done until you answer it. Do you have the first premise, Kay?
I've never seen you perform this bad.
Do you have the first premise, Kay?
What was my response that I gave you?
I don't know. Do you have the first premise? Yes or no?
You don't know the response.
No. I'm telling you, I don't. Do you have the first premise? Yes or no?
No, I've given you a response every single time.
Okay, it's on recording. Do you have the first premise? Yes or no?
Okay, so.
Oh, another dodge. Do you have the first premise? Yes or no? It's a yes or no question. Do you have the first premise?
Yeah, just let me know.
Yeah, do you have the first premise? That's the question. The response to that, an appropriate response to that sort of question is yes, no, I don't know. So that's an appropriate response to that sort of question. So I'm like asking you whether you have the first premise. And what you're doing here is just going to do this like, oh, well, in any case, I'm just going to give this like fucking paywall ramble, right? And then I'm just going to say I've given you an informal argument. Yeah, but know what I'm doing here? I'm formalizing your argument for you because you're so incompetent and you don't have any training in philosophy. You don't have any training in philosophy, so all you have is to like paywall ramble about multiple realizability. So yeah, the question is, do you have the first premise?
You want to like repeat your question one more time? Or are you done?
Yeah, do you have the first premise, Kay? Yes or no?
Oh, you repeat it like 5 more times so I can hear it.
Yeah, it's just going to be clear that you're running from this question. Do you have the first premise?
Right, so in any case, right?
In any case? I fucking precogged it. I precogged that he was going to do the any case thing. The question is so simple. It's a yes or no. It's a yes or no question.
Let me know when you're done speaking out.
No, I'm not done speaking out. You're not answering my question. Yeah. Look at the stream. Look at the stream.
You're gonna keep speaking out. That's the only way that you're gonna win this conversation.
Okay, so I'm happy to leave it. I think I'm happy to leave it here actually. So we'll leave it on this. No, I'm fine with this. I'm fine with this. I'm fine with getting the three tries to answer the question, and then if you fail on the three tries to answer this basic question, we leave it at that. How about that? So everyone can get on the stream. So try number one. Try number one is: do you have the first premise?
It's too bad that you don't get to dictate how.
Oh, so that's a fail. That's a fail. Okay. Try number two, K. Do you have the first premise?
So in any case,
in any case, that's a dodge. Okay, in any case, K, do you have the first premise? Yes or no?
Talking stick, yes or no?
Okay, so that's dodge number 3. So now what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to clarify for the room what's happened. Right, so what's happened is K signed off on having a sound argument for the proposition that mental states are located roughly somewhere in the body. So we went to A1 there, right, and I got the first premise out of him there. He said mental states are multiply realizable. Second premise is if mental types are multiply realizable, they're not identical to physical types. If mental types are not identical to physical types, it's not the case that it's like discursively reducible to any physical theory. And then P3 is just the conjunction of those entailing G. Now, the point is, I'm asking him for the first premise so we've got to A2, and I'm asking for the first premise for this premise, and he's failing to answer that. He's failing to answer that, so I've given him 3 tries. I've given him 3 tries to answer this very simple question. Do you have the first premise, K? And he's running from this. And I'm happy with the performance I've given here. I'm very happy with the performance K has given here too. Let's leave it at that.
Okay, cool. So anyways, right, after all that ramble that literally nobody gave a shit about in this fucking server, right? The point is that, number one, this guy's terrified of having a talking stick. That's why he dodged the question on every single occasion that I asked him. The reason why...
Yeah, I dodged the question. I dodged the question. Yeah, the only way... Yeah, you can't do this paywall ramble thing when I'm louder than you. It's not...
Right? The only way that he can win this conversation is by talking over me constantly. That's the only way that he thinks.
Yeah, look in the... my boy, what I want you to do is look at the chat. I want you to look at the chat. So there's 13 votes for me. There are 13 votes for me, right? So what is going on there? What is going on there? Well, what I've done is blown you the fuck out, right? I've forced linearity on you, and I know this doesn't happen to you on TikTok, right? I know it doesn't happen to you on TikTok that I force linearity on you, but it's happening here, and you're getting blown the fuck out. You're like too busy drooling all over the place to like answer the question I give. You know, every time I insist on you like not giving this like natural language ramble, you have like this mental breakdown, and all you do is use this rhetoric thing by saying in any case, like you're like in a fucking Apollo debater. It's such a bad look. You just live in unclarity. You're like terrified of your ramble being condensed into a valid argument, and that's what I've shown here. I've shown you're terrified of that. You're fucking terrified. Oh yeah, I am done blowing you the fuck out. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Good one. You really got me there. Good one.
Yeah, I did get you there.
In any case, right? So
in any case, dude, how's it so easy to precog what you're gonna do? How's it so easy to precog what you're gonna do? Are you done? Sorry, are you done? Are you done, dude? In any case, are you done?
Do you ever stop talking?
Oh wait, should I answer the question or should I do a natural language ramble?
Do you no answer yes or no? Do you ever stop talking? Yes or no?
Oh wait, so I don't need to answer that question in a yes or no, and I don't want to, and you know, there's more philosophy to it than yes or no questions. So and I hate these analytic people where they just force linearity on me.
Well, that was a really good one. Good impression there.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. In any case, you done? Wait, in any case, you done?
Why this guy's like constantly talking over me every time I open my mouth to speak?
It's because I've already blown you the fuck out.
If we were to have a conversation where people were to take turns in speaking, that he would get absolutely blown the fuck out. That's why he's constantly interrupting me at every moment that I speak. And the reason why you didn't answer the question when I offered for us to have a talking stick is because you and I both know that if we were to
the reason that you don't want to do this talking stick thing, the reason you don't want to do this talking stick thing is because I'm way better than you rhetorically, and I'm so gay. I'm so gay, dude. Right, so if he's just gonna local mute me, then it's done. That's it.
Today, right? And let's see if he actually accomplished anything in this debate today. So what did he do? First, he started off by saying that he's totally agnostic on whether or not the mind is physical, on mind physicalism. And then I asked him, and then he said, well, let's just suppose, right? And by the way, I can't hear him if he's talking because I have him locally muted. So if he's talking over me, I can't hear him right now. So in any case, and then I asked him. He said, "Suppose that suppose that the mind and the mental facts, that those things have an identity relation to physical facts." And then first I had to ask him what type of relation.
Wait, can we put ones in the chat if we're not interested in a retard ramble? Can everyone just put ones in the chat if we're not interested in this retard rambling?
Okay.
Can we just see what's happening? Oh, okay. Look at all the ones in the chat. He might be getting confused why there's so many ones in the chat. Okay, well, why is there so many ones in the chat? Because people don't want this retard rambling.
Generalizability thesis, and then there's also the multiple chordability thesis. I chose the former, and I presented that argument against his dumb fuck interpretation of mind physicalism. And then what did he do in response? He didn't respond to anything that I said whatsoever when I presented the argument and motivation for the the conclusion of the argument, right? He didn't respond to anything. Instead, what he did was he just kept re-asking me over and over again to provide premise one, and then the rest of his time was just pure rhetoric.
Is anyone tuning into the retard ramble?
You can think that. That's totally up to you. I don't think anybody outside of Discord or TikTok with like less than a 64 IQ would actually think that that's a win. But if that's what you want to call a win, that's totally up to you. Really don't care.
Oh, thanks for the recap, by the way, Kay.
So you can go on your dumb fuck ramble.
No, I think we got a good faith conversation out of it. You failed to give the first premise. You failed to answer whether you have a first premise. I think we're good with that. I think we're good with what we've had here. I mean, wait. I just want to check. I just want to check with some of the more competent people. I want to check with some of the more competent people in the room.
That asking for P1 is losing. If that's what you thought that I said, then you're like really fucking stupid. Okay, so I'm not saying that it made like you're automatically losing a debate if you ask for P1. What I'm saying is that if you're asking for
we have another retard ramble.
Somebody giving you an informal argument over and over again, choosing not to engage in the informal argument that they're giving you, but instead in a really fucking retarded way.
Why does he keep monologuing?
For premise one, that's a rhetorical move. It's like
so there is a rhetorical move on the table, and the rhetorical move is to ask for the first premise. I'm exposing these fucking analytitards. All these analytitards do is just force linearity on me, but I just want to not give the first premise.
It's time to put it to rest.
It's not!
Right. But in any case,
what do you think of the first argument, Mustafa? Like, do you have any contentions with that?
Is he
Ken, the funny point. The funny point is
that this is what he does, right? Is that he gets a bunch of people on Discord, and then he just beats them down with what's premise one, and he knows.
Hey, I don't think you're acting like you haven't done this.
Yeah. Okay. Wait. So,
I mean, like, listen, I get Mustafa as being bad faith, in all honesty, but like, why are you acting like you have never also done the one premise thing? I mean, everyone's done it.
No, I'm not. Look, so again, it's a condition.
I'm friends with you, Kay, but I mean, come on, we've all done it.
Evan, you're not understanding what I'm saying, dude. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with you.
So your mic is so bad, bro.
I don't know what Mustafa is saying because I haven't muted. I'm talking to Evan right now. So Evan, there's a condition, right? There's nothing wrong with asking for premise one if the person hasn't given any arguments at all, right? But let's say the person has given you an argument, but it's just not in a premise conclusion format, and you keep going, and the argument's like successful. There's nothing wrong with the argument. There's no apparent contradiction or anything, and then you just like completely ignored that argument and then ask for premise one. That's what the problem is. I don't do that.
But that's what they do in every single university that teaches philosophy on the planet. You present your argument.
Is this guy fucking? Who said that shit?
Yeah.
Illis said it.
Bro, let's just stop talking, dude. Like, that was embarrassing. Why would you say that?
Okay, wait, Evan. Oh wait, also Kian, the answer to the question is, by the way, obviously the argument is terrible for this reason. Namely that multiple
Nexus.
So
who is that?
So wait, can you get this guy to calm down while I give the explanation for why his argument is terrible?
I think.
Wait, Penny, that's actually a fire edit. Post it. I'll repost it.
No, but yeah, I'm not gonna fall for like the terrible like Discord rage baiting tactics, like the rhetoric thing.
Now it's over. Like, can you?
Unmute.
Now that it's over, could you give the first premise? Like, now that it's
No.
over.
No. But like, yeah.
Is that what you're about to say, yeah?
Okay. The obvious response is, and let's see if Kay has a response to this. By the way, the obvious response is to just deny a type identity theory. And then it just isn't clear that the argument entails that physicalism simpliciter is false, that the naive thing we have in mind. And it would only show that a type view has problems. Because notice that, like, and Kian mentioned this earlier, that, you know, function, like, and everyone else in the side chat was tracking this very basic point.
To respond to my argument?
Yeah. Are you ready to listen?
Oh, I wasn't listening, but now I'm going
to Okay, great.
Natural response.
Yeah, so the obvious response is that whether or not the argument will succeed in showing all versions of physicalism are false, or at least the ones we're concerned with, isn't clear, because you can have versions of physicalism like functionalism and token identity theory that still commit to the proposition that mental states are located roughly somewhere in the body, but you know, they're not a type view. So it doesn't show the argument just straightforwardly wouldn't be valid.
Yeah, so the problem with this is that this is why I was asking in the very beginning for us to get clear on what type of physicalism that you're talking about, which you didn't give me an answer for. Right now,
I said
if
naive.
The question that you asked me, just stop talking. Okay?
I said it's naive.
So if the question that, just stop talking. It's not your turn to speak. I let you finish.
Yeah,
so
I'm interrupting you. I'm interrupting you when you say false things.
Baby boy. Your time to go back on mute, baby boy.
I'm just going to interrupt you when you say false things.
Okay, then I'm just going to go back to...
Is it okay if I interrupt you when you say false things? Like, the definition is written on the screen.
Back on mute. Right.
The definition is on the screen.
No fucking self-control.
Now, the definition is on the screen.
Right,
why is he already running?
The fuck point that he made was simply this, right? This is the reason why it's important to get clear in the very beginning of the discussion before we enter into... What he did was he gave me some botched-ass, weak-ass version of physicalism to which he didn't even commit to anything. And I just gave any sort of argument, and this argument isn't even supposed to be an argument against all physicalist theories. It's supposed to be an argument against...
He's just repeating what I said. Yeah, I know. That's exactly what I said. Why is he repeating it?
So if that's the response, I'm going to need you to tell me what version of physicalism that you're talking about.
He rambled for 2 minutes to just repeat back the same response.
All right, what about orchestrated objective reduction as a physicalist view?
Let's just stop talking. You're like severely out of your depth. I don't know why you're talking. This is like you're in deep waters right now. You shouldn't be speaking right now.
You're telling me that I don't have a degree in philosophy and I don't know what a hard problem.
Your degree is entirely useless. You're like the stupidest person on this VC. Like literally, I don't know why you're talking.
No, I think that belongs to Penny.
Okay, so Kay, that 2 minute ramble, you could have just summed it up that you only gave an argument against type identity theory. I agree that that's why that's. Yeah, I know. Remember? Do you remember the conclusion I was looking for an argument for?
That physicalism is false.
No. It's this. So remember, this is why if you looked at the stream like everyone else is doing, you'd be able to track what's happening. The proposition is just mental states are located roughly somewhere in the body. That isn't so. You know, giving an argument against type identity theory won't show that is false. So that's just a huge blunder on your part. And by the way, this is a blunder that Kian tracked. This is a blunder that Eric tracked. This is a blunder that Evan tracked. That they were happy to unmute and say they all knew why this argument is terrible against the proposition that mental states are located roughly somewhere in the body. I have no idea why you gave a multiple realizability argument against the naive proposition I was looking for. When you say Illist is out of his depth, you are completely out of your depth when you talk to me. I hope you know that. I can quit. Yeah. I can ask you like 3 random like basic philosophy questions, and you would fail so badly. You would agree with that, right? Yeah.
Is that what you think?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna respond to the point that you made. Okay. So in any case. Now, I was under the interpretation, or rather the assumption. Yeah, in any case.
In any case, right? In any case. Right, in any case.
Because you have no self-control. Once again.
in any case, let me just mute.
Right, has no self-control for some odd reason. Okay. So, in any case.
We have another fucking 3-minute ramble, guys. Tune into the ramble, everyone. One's in the chat.
When I'm responding, it's really fucking sad. But in any case.
Yeah, I'm responding because you do this fucking 5-minute ramble thing. That's irrelevant. Nothing you say here is relevant.
Physicalism. That's what you asked me in Eric's live, more specifically. Now, I haven't opened whatever dumb fuck thing that you have pulled up on the screen. I haven't opened that a single time because I don't care to open it up. I'm not interested in your, I guess you could say, your rhetorical performance about, asking a question, typing really loudly, typing it on the screen, checking for its validity. All of these things are just rhetorical devices that I just don't care about. I actually care about this.
Checking for validity is a rhetorical device. Let me write that down.
I was under the impression from the previous slide that we had on TikTok that you were looking for an argument that refuted my physicalism, which is why I asked you what type, or rather what version of physicalism you were talking about. Whether you were talking about a type version of physicalism or a token identity view of physicalism or whatever view of physicalism that you were talking about. You didn't really give me that. So yeah, that's the response that I have. Nah,
any minute now, guys. He's gonna finish his ramble. Oh, and there it is, guys. So, okay, we've signed off the K ramble now, and let's conclude with him not giving the first premise. Right now, you can go back on another 5-minute ramble, K. But the conclusion is that you just haven't given the first premise. You can do this thing where I don't want to give the first premise, so I gave it informally. No, you didn't. You did not give the first premise for the conclusion that if 1 and 3 is true, then C.
Let us know when you're done.
I just said you can do your 5-minute ramble thing.
Oh, you're done? Okay, perfect. Yeah. So, in any case, right? So you keep doing this thing where you're talking about the fact that I didn't give the first premise when I've already explained to you on several different occasions, you dumb fuck, right? That I don't need to give a response.
Dude, he's raging. He's actually raging that he hasn't given the first premise. You dumb fuck. You dumb fuck.
For like 15 seconds, and then he just uncontrollably unmuted his mic.
Because you're raging. I wanted to point out the fact that you're raging at this conversation that you haven't given the first premise.
Like I said,
it's so easy to rile up these morons. It's so easy to rile up these morons. Namely when it's true that they're not giving the first premise.
Where people praise you for doing those things, when in fact it's nothing over and above a simple rhetorical device. It doesn't.
Yeah, it's a rhetorical device. I mean, in any case, it is just a rhetorical device. It is a rhetorical device.
You have a louder mic, and you can ask questions in a way that
I can ask questions that makes it seem like you're retarded. They're running a script. This is what they do. They run a script.
I tend to have somewhat of a grasp. I don't have.
You don't have a grasp on anything on philosophy of mind. No, you don't. No, you don't. Yeah, you have no idea. You're out of your depth. Yeah, that's right.
Actually, you're not going to get me with these rhetorical devices.
Yeah, but I have got you. You haven't given the first premise. That's getting you. That's legit getting you. I have got you. I've crushed you. You're like a little insect. I like ask you for the first premise and you run away.
If it's the case that mental types are not identical to physical types, then psychological discourse.
Another 10-minute ramble from K.
Is not reducible to physical theories. I gave you a motivation for that. You didn't respond to the motivation. The only thing that you did was just pester me about giving you premise 1, which I don't have an obligation to do. Okay? You stupid fuck.
Yeah, he does this like 3-minute ramble thing every time I point out he hasn't given the first premise. He like knows it's a bad look that he hasn't given the first premise. That's why he does the ramble thing, by the way.